Never seen this before. They must be desperate for you to play this thing. We've got a 2006 Avalanche here, and it's got a misfire. It's actually running right now, and I could hear or feel the misfire. Owner says it's a single cylinder misfire. Let's try a clear flood mode. Okay. Okay, so it sounds good. It doesn't sound like it's on low compression or anything like that. And here goes our codes. Now with the number 8, first thing that comes to mind is if there's coolant leaking, because number 8 is the one is the cylinder closest to the firewall, and it's right next to that kind of quick connect for the heater core, and they tend to leak onto the coil, causing problems. But I already checked this one out, and it is not leaking on the coil. And we're looking at some misfire data here. You can see clear as day, number 8 is indeed misfiring. So one thing I noticed is if I check any other coil, we get a waveform, as you can see, right? Check this one right here. Again, another waveform, but then when we go to cylinder number 8, which is way back there, cylinder number 8, we get absolutely nothing. So someone's been inside of here. The coils are held on with 2 bolts. I removed the top bolt, and the coil just practically fell right out. So even though the second bolt was in the coil, it wasn't threading into anything. Alright, nothing to see here. Everyone go home. All I did was the classic switcheroo. Took the coil off number 8 and put it on 6, and now you can see we have misfires on cylinder number 6. So it's simply going to need just a coil, and that's it for this one. Got a 2004 Toyota RAV4. Customer just dropped it off, and this thing will not stay running. I tried to pull it into the driveway, and it must have stalled out on me at least like 5 times. Looking at the codes here, we have a cylinder 1 misfire, right? But she just told me that she went to AutoZone and got the code scanned, and they told her it was cylinder number 4. So of course they showed her a ignition coil, and she said they changed number 4, yet it's still doing the same exact thing. So I wonder if the problem was actually on 1, like we have the code here for, and maybe they swapped out the wrong coil. Maybe there's still a good coil. Alright, I just started the car up, and then it just shut off on me again. One thing I noticed is whenever you turn the car on and you hit the pedal, you could just hear like the coolant just sloshing around inside of the heater core like crazy. Now, a little info on the car is she's had her front brakes done, both front calipers changed, radiator changed, the ignition coil changed, and this was all done by her brother and her cousin, she said, because they work on cars. Okay, so I'm suspecting they did not bleed the cooling system properly, because you could just hear the coolant. Let's try to start it. Could you hear that? Yeah, I could just hear the coolant just sloshing around inside of there. Car's hesitating. Look at that idle. It just wants to turn off. Alright, so I could already see it. Look at this. Yep. Her brother and cousin work on cars. Just looking at this quickly, it looks like that's the coil that was replaced right there. See how clean it looks? And these are the original ones. I don't know the layout of this, but I'm going to assume the timing belt or chain is on this side, okay? So I'm going to assume this is cylinder number 1. And like she said, they changed cylinder number 4 ignition coil. But we have a code for cylinder 1. So let's see what's going on here. You know what? Before I take it apart, I'm going to try to keep the car running. Maybe look at fuel trims. Well, that was an epic fail. I can't keep it running long enough to even run out here and try to get a waveform off of see if these coils are firing or doing anything. But now we're at the point where it's a no start. Look at this. and the battery's dead. Turn it over, it just clicks. The car runs so poorly that the battery's not being charged. I was gonna wait till tomorrow to look at this car, but I decided to just pull it into the garage, and why not just look at it tonight. So I took the airbox off, well, part of it, and I can't remember, but I think she said they replaced the spark plugs. But seeing the shoddy work they did on the brakes and the radiator, the cooling system needs to be bled, the brake system needs to be bled, the pedal practically goes all the way to the floor. At that point, I'm not trusting any work that they did. So if she said that they replaced the spark plugs, I'm gonna pull one of them out and check it. I got the plugs out, and yes, they all are new plugs. Now they all seem to have oil on the threads, and when you look in here, it does kind of look like there's an issue with a valve cover gasket. I'm guessing the first time they pulled all these plugs out, there was oil inside of there. One thing I noticed is none of the spark plugs are tight. They all came out very easy, to say the least. So they were not torqued down properly. But it's nice to see. Let's mass airflow sensor. Okay, yeah. So there is a mass airflow sensor, and it's behind here, so which means I could leave all of this open. I'm gonna go ahead and put the plugs back in the coils and try to keep the car running to just keep checking things. Okay, so I got the plugs back in, coils are back in, as you can see. I want to just step back and think about this for a second. Okay, so even if the data on the scanner is correct, if we have a misfire on cylinder one misfire is not going to make this engine stall, turn off, and drive as crappy as it does. Okay, so what would cause that? First thing that came to mind, mass airflow sensor. So let's go in here, check it out. I don't know how well it's going to pick up, but does that look dirty to you? Because it sure does to me. Now I'm sure if I looked at scan data long enough, I would have noticed this, but I didn't even bother pulling up any data for the mass airflow sensor. But before I take it off and clean it, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Connect the scanner, try to get the car to run. Okay, so if you look at the mass airflow, we are at 5.5 grams per second, and that's with my foot on the pedal. I'm gonna let go of it. Hopefully it doesn't turn off. One, and it wants to turn off. 1.4. Yep, turned off. Okay, so it was idling like 1.4, 1.7 grams per second. Alright, so that looks real crappy, right? So let's go ahead and pull that mass airflow sensor off. By the way, this clamp right here that connects to the back of the map sensor wasn't even tight. I was able to just take it off without even touching it. But here's a mass airflow sensor. We could see that right there. It's gonna be hard to focus. See how dirty that thing is. So I would imagine what's inside of here is gonna be just as dirty, and it's not gonna pick up very well on camera, but I could definitely tell those things are dirty. So I do have some mass airflow cleaner here, and I'm gonna go ahead and spray them down, and we can see how it looks after I'm done cleaning it. I'm just about done cleaning it. First, let's look at the temperature sensor. And come on, focus. Focus. Alright, right there. You can see it looks way cleaner. And if you get a shot inside of there, I know it's really hard to see them, but they also look much better. Alright, so the car is now running, and it's still misfiring, but it's actually running on its own. It doesn't stall out like it used to. And look at the mass airflow sensor. It's reading a lot better than it was before. So it's a step in the right direction. Okay, so this is funny. I went to remove the cover for the fuse panel, and look what I see right here jammed in here. It says coil number 4. Like, what are you doing? Are you saving it for something? Why the hell is it right here? It just makes no damn sense. Okay, so eventually I got the code back for cylinder 1 misfire. So what I did was classic scanner Danner test with a test light, checking for spark. And so at this point we have 3 coils, right? We We had the one that was already in cylinder 1. We had the one that was in the box on the passenger seat, and we had the one that was over here. So I tried all of them, okay, testing them. These two, one of them's completely dead, no spark at all. The other one has a very weak spark. It only sparks whenever you get very close to it. This one right here was actually, and I'm so confused. I don't know which one was the original one that was in here. But this one actually had a decent spark coming out of it, so it's the one I left in there. And it's not perfect. You can see it's trembling a little bit, but it's actually running. It's way smoother than it used to be. It doesn't want to turn off anymore. And okay, so it's running much better. All right, and I'm taking a closer look at these coils, and now I remember. Okay, so this one is the one that was by the fuse box. This is the one that was by the fuse box. This is the one that came in the car when it got here in cylinder 1. And this is the one that was sitting on the passenger seat. So here's my thoughts. So if it was on the passenger seat, that means it's the one that originally came out of number 4. So they took out a good ignition coil to put in a brand new one, and the one that was actually bad, they left it in. So we were able to grab the good spare one and put it in cylinder 1, and that's why it's running much better. Alright, so I think I'm done for tonight. It's actually idling very good. I'll turn the lights on here. I don't feel any shaking at all. It just feels normal, how it should feel. And look at some data here. Looking at the misfire counters, and nothing at all. Mass airflow sensor is reading a lot better. No codes. Looking at the airfield ratio sensor, 3.3. So I'm really happy with it. It's come a long way since it got here about an hour ago. Taking this rav4 for a test drive just to make sure everything's okay with the engine, and it is. It's no longer stalling. It's driving good, but everything else is wrong. Suspension sounds like crap. I already checked it. It's gonna need struts, stabilizer links and bushings. Cooling system, I could hear the coolant just slushing around inside there, and the brake pedal is horrible. It pretty much goes all the way to the floor. Any pressure that you do build up, if you keep your foot on it long enough, your foot just sinks to the floor. But engine is driving good. It's not stalling anymore, so just gonna go ahead and give it back to the customer and let them decide what else they want to get fixed. Just got this box today from Rock Auto, and this is what was in it. It's crazy. You could have just put it in an envelope or something and send it. Freaking Rock Auto. America.
Normal. Camshaft is where it needs to be. Coolant tank's warm. This engine's warm. So unless we were looking at our 4-channel scope right now, what do we see? If we don't look at their capture, what exactly are we looking at? What caused it to shut off? Right?
Working on my guy's GMC 1500. He wanted to see why there was no heat, and initially I was thinking, you know, cooling system. It had something to do with, no, but it's more of a control side for the blower motor issue. So basically these are the two wires going to the blower motor, and if we put the fan speed on high and only on high do we get power here. So that tells me most likely the resistor is blown out. And then we put power directly to the motor itself and nothing happens. So it has a bad blower motor as well as a bad blower motor resistor. Alright, so we got the blower motor out real fast, and it is 100% seized. Yeah, I can't. It moves a little bit if you force it, but can't really get it to move. There's your problem, lady. Alright, it's getting dark out here, but we are just about done. We end up replacing the fuse for the blower motor because it was blown. Turn the key here. We installed a new resistor and a new blower motor. So now low speed works, and let's just call this medium, and high. Nice. Alright, this one's all set. Here I am with my neighbor's Mitsubishi Lancer, and this thing has the full Pep Boy special. The previous owner turned it like into a race car. Anyways, it's got, as you can see, lowering springs all around, so all the struts are blown out. It handles like crap, it sounds like crap, and it drives like crap. She has a brake complaint. She said there's a slight squealing and the brake pads are low. First thing you notice is this right here. There's no clip to hold this in place, and I don't think I have one laying around to put here. But yeah, whoever worked on this car to try to make it into a Fast and Furious just completely hacked it up. Got a 97 Suburban 1500, came in on the hook yesterday. There's kind of weird story going on with this. The owner thought it needed a fuel pump, right? Because it would like randomly shut off on him and then it wouldn't start. And he would spray like starting fluid into the intake and it would start. So he assumed it needed a fuel pump. He put the fuel pump in it and the car has the same exact problem even after the new fuel pump. So now he's suspecting that the new fuel pump is bad, which is not likely. I think there's something else going on here. But anyways, we have mass airflow codes, so I want to see what's going on up here. And the first thing I noticed is all the clamps were loose for the mass airflow sensor and the air intake tube, and there was even a pretty big gap between the hose that goes here and this, and you could see, so everything's just loose here. You got stupid things like this. You see that broken right there? The mass airflow sensor doesn't look too bad, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean it out anyway. He said it randomly shuts off on him. Last time it shut off, it would not start up again. And then he had it towed over here and I go to start it and it just starts right up without a problem. And it has not acted up since it's been here. It has a 5.7 liter and at idle, the mass airflow sensor is just a smidge over 6 grams per second. We do have a vacuum leak somewhere. I think the total fuel trim is somewhere around like positive 20, something like that. Let me double check that. Yeah, okay, so the short term is bouncing around 14 and the long term is about 6. So we're at about positive 20, and if you get on the accelerator pedal, the fuel trims come down to 0. So we do have a vacuum leak, which I'm not surprised. And I think we're in closed loop. I mean open loop. And yes, we are. I'm trying to figure out why it won't go into closed loop. And then I realized the temperature gauge on the dash is still reading that the engine's pretty much cold. We look at the coolant temperature and we're at 127 and it just got there. For the longest it was at like 118, and the car's been running for about 15 to 20 minutes with me holding the accelerator pedal at about 1500 RPM. So at this point I would expect this vehicle to be up to operating temperature already, but it's not. That's probably why it won't go into closed loop. There we go. I noticed that as soon as we went past 130 degree, we went into closed loop. I'm just gonna let off the pedal here, and the dash is still reading that it's pretty much cold. Alright, so this is good to see. This tells me that we can go into closed loop. We just have something going on with the temperature sensor, the coolant, that it's just not warming up fast enough. So what I'm going to do now, because I'm just kind of wasting time now, what I'm going to do now is shut it off, let the engine completely cool off, and I'll check the cooling system, see if there's any antifreeze in the system or how much of it is in there. Checking the radiator, you can see there is some in there, and I could definitely tell that's water. You see how rusty the water looks, and it's not completely empty, but we could top it off and see if it changes how the temperature sensor is reacting. I decided to add a 50-50 mix instead of just straight water since it's starting to get cold outside. But as you can see, I got my funnel out there. I'm trying to bleed out any air that might be in the system. Now I'm just going to go ahead and keep a eye on the temperature as well as how fast or how long it takes us to go into closed loop. I've been holding the RPM up for some time now, and we are at 127. Where it bounces around 124 and still in open loop, but I have not experienced the problem of why it was dropped off. Intermittent stalling, and it's a crank no start, and no matter how many times I turn it off and turn it on, it starts up every single time. Just like last time, once you get past 130, it goes into closed loop. But it's taken over a half hour to get to 130 degree. I'm pretty sure we also have a bad temperature sensor, because I'm here looking at the data, and for a split second, it dropped down to -30 and then jumped right back up to like the 130 mark. So we have a very intermittent bad temperature sensor, it seems like. As frustrating as this is one of those customers that it's like he doesn't trust what I'm saying. He keeps thinking something's wrong with the fuel pump because he already changed it. I think what's going on here is what's it called, buyer's remorse. Is when you pay something a lot of money, or you put in a lot of effort into something, and then someone tells you no, that was wrong, it's not it, and then you're really trying to justify the problem. So I keep telling him it's not a fuel pump issue, even because you had the problem before you put the fuel pump in, you have the problem after you put the fuel pump in, and the car's running fine while it's running. It's not the fuel pump. You can see he has multiple relays here for the fuel pump, and he keeps texting me saying, are you sure it's not the fuel pump? It's driving me crazy. Then people, you don't want to trust me, then just come pick up your car and that's it. Since the owner is so concerned about the fuel pump and he keeps bringing it up and asking me if I'm sure, let's go ahead and check it. I got this neat little jumper right here with a switch on it so we can activate the fuel pump. And let's turn it on. Yep, sorry about the glare. But that looks good. I don't see any dropouts or anything as what I was expecting. It's a perfectly good pump because it's a brand new pump you just put in. Let's turn it off. Alright, so the owner of this car is just one of those people I just don't want to deal with anymore. Okay, so I told him what I found that's wrong and what I think should get it replaced or done to the car, right? And then he tells me, so you're not sure on what's wrong with the car and you just want to do process of elimination. No, don't look at it like that, okay? Now you're just degrading what I do, okay? If I see something wrong, it needs to get fixed before we could keep going forward. It's just how I do things. Like, you got to put your socks on before you put your shoes on, right? So thinking back at it, I did see that temperature sensor drop out for a split second. It said like -30 degrees. Now, a temperature sensor is known to make a car not start if it's acting up like that. So is that what's going on here? Is his temperature sensor intermittently dropping out, and that's when the car doesn't want to start? I'm working on a Mercedes ML350, I think, and today we're doing lower ball joint on it. Now, she took it to a shop, and before they could do a wheel alignment, they told her she needs a lower ball joint, right? Alright, so she brings it over here. With the wheel on, when I checked it, I did not feel any play or anything wrong with the lower ball joint. So I brought it up to her, and she said she just wants to get it done because the shop said she needs it. So I'm like, alright, we'll change it. And now that I got the ball joint off of the car, it still seems like a perfectly good ball joint. I don't know, guys. I think this might be one of those situations where someone told her she needed something when she really didn't. Either way, it's getting done, and then she could take it back to get a wheel alignment, I guess. Within this last week, I already broke two T40 bits here. This one is a Duralast that just sheared right off, and then this one is a Carlisle. That one just shattered. Alright, so time to pick up some more. I mean, it's not the tool's fault. I keep putting them on my impact gun, so that's the main problem. The owner took the car to do emission testing and failed, and he was shocked because he's like, there's no check engine light. Well, when you turn the key in the runner position, there is no check engine light. Either the light bulb is blown out or something, but so technically there was a check engine light. He was just unaware of it because the light does not turn on. Got this Nissan Titan in the garage. It's here for evap code. In case you're wondering why it's dark in here, it's because I had the heater on up there, and then my compressor kicked on and it blew the breaker, and I just haven't gone to reset it. But it's here for evap code, and I've come down to a conclusion that the vent valve is bad. Normally open, I believe. We power it up and it never closes. So that's what's going on here. Stays open all the time. The code that we had is said something about large leak, and this is definitely a large leak because it doesn't even try to close. It's 100% open even when powered. So hopefully that's the only problem within the system. Alright, so we have a new vent valve here, and it was already in the car because the owner had the codes checked somewhere else before he came here. So he just took a shot in the dark and bought a vent valve, and in this case it was the right call. Unfortunately, dun dun dun, dormant, the wings. But I tested it and it works. It seals up whenever I power it up. So that's it. I'm gonna go ahead, pop it in. This is actually pretty cool. It's an aftermarket tablet with a backup camera. It looks halfway decent, and I might have to put one of these bad boys on a Nissan Versa. I'm just joking. It's too freaking huge, but it is pretty cool.